And welcome back to episode 39 of Who's on Top. I'm your host, Ori Ben-Ari, and we have our most action-packed episode yet. A special guest, Jacob's birthday, and our final round of predictions. But before all of that, let's introduce our regular analysts. We have our Frisbro, also known as the birthday boy, Jacob Kazin.
What's up, guys? Let's talk some sports.
The members of the Phi Slamma, Jeremy House, the Russian machine, Alice Gordon.
What's up?
The bandwagon Bucks fan, Daniel Fox.
No idea what you're talking about, but hello.
And finally, the namesake, Jeremy Giles.
As always, at your service.
And our special guest this week, host of the Lefkoe Show, NBA analyst for TNT, and huge Eagles fan, Adam Lefkoe. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
How you living? How you feeling? How you doing? How you guys doing, guys? I'm excited to be here. It's Jacob's birthday.
We are also very excited.
He's 42, everybody. It's a big night.
That is really funny because I made a Facebook a couple years ago and I wasn't old enough to make it. And according to my Facebook, I did turn 42 years old today.
Oh, look at that.
So look at that. Look at that.
Long-time Facebook friend Adam Lefkoe there. You knew it, guys.
So let's start off with one of Daniel's brainchild segments. Anything that comes from his brain has to be good, and this is no different. Daniel, you want to explain we in, we out?
Yeah, so welcome to we should know the name. Welcome to We In, We Out, brought to you by Roku, the only streaming device that makes you say, hey, I'd rather be homeless in the middle of the woods. So basically what this is, it's a knockoff of contenders and pretenders. We're going to go through three teams, and we're going to evaluate their chances at making a run deep into the playoffs. So, Ori, why don't you get us started here?
All right, let's do it. Start off with the Colts. Strong defense. Philip Rivers been coming hot off the bye. Ellis, you've been hot on the Colts. What do you have to say?
So I will take the pro side. They are we in on the Colts. And here's why. And I will be first one to admit, earlier in past episodes, I was cold on the Colts. I predicted them to lose against the Titans, but they have won me over. And here's why. Their defense has the second least points other than the Rams. This is a really, really good defense. And in my opinion, defense wins championships. And Philip Rivers, I give him a lot of crap. That throwing motion, it works for him, but kind of suspect on everyone else. But he has a 68% completion percentage, which is 4 more than his average. Sure, there are more dump-offs than usual. We'll forget that. But what we have to realize is the Colts have a great offensive line. Pittman is coming up, and Jonathan Taylor, who has struggled early on, had a really good game against the Packers. This team can match up, in my opinion, to any team as long as Philip Rivers gets time in the pocket, which I am confident he will have. Therefore, they beat the Packers, they beat the Titans. They're going up right now. They are we in on the Colts.
All right, Adam Lefkoe, what do you have for us?
All right, now hold on. Is this we in for making the playoffs or we in for really having a chance to win the Super Bowl?
I think we're going with really have a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, making a run deep into the playoffs.
Okay. Then I hate to say it, but we out. And I want to be in. And I think that there's going to be a lot of hope around this team if they beat the Titans for the second time in 3 weeks. You beat the Titans second time in 3 weeks, you move to 8-3, send them to 7-4. You have seemingly a lock on the AFC South, but that's not my issue. My issue is there is no home field advantage, but there is home weather advantage. And there are quarterbacks that are not great outside, and they're typically older quarterbacks. Drew Brees out there in the weather looks awful. Tom Brady outside looks awful. Philip Rivers this year, when he's out there, does not look great. Their one loss recently, the one on the road at Cleveland, their one earlier this year, they lost at Jacksonville. When Philip is in the dome, at least there's some control. But even in their last game, they're putting in Jacoby Brissett for 4th and short and trying to get a little bit more zip on the ball. The question that you have for the Colts, my biggest question, I predicted this team to finish second in the conference. Where has this offensive line gone? That's the question that I don't think anyone has the answer to. Is there a chance that all of a sudden the light switch goes on and they start mauling people and they control the line of scrimmage with that defense? Yes. But right now, they're either seemingly going to have to go to Pittsburgh in the playoffs or Kansas City in the playoffs. And if you're having to keep pace With Mahomes, I don't think this Colts team can do it. And if they have to go out there and Phillip Rivers is going to have to throw against the Steelers defense in Pittsburgh in January, I just don't see it either. So I think that they're a team that could be in the final 8. I do not see them as a team that gets past the final 4.
Daniel, put the nail in the coffin of the Indianapolis Colts here.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to agree with Adam. And basically, where I'm at is like Adam said, you judge an AFC team about whether they can compete with the Steelers and the Colts, Steelers and the Chiefs. Sorry, and I don't think the Colts can. They just do not have the offensive firepower. They have no offensive player that really scares anybody. They don't have a running back with over 4 yards of carry. They don't have a receiver with over 300 yards. And one thing that sort of hints at that is that they're 25th in the league in red zone percentage. That tells me they don't have a quarterback who could fit the ball into tight windows, which you need to do in the red zone, and they don't have a consistent player who could be a consistent mismatch in the red zone. And I know you guys are talking about the defense, right? But we've seen them struggle against the Packers. We've seen them struggle against the Browns. They've played well against the Jets and the Vikings, but I see them when you go against elite offenses like the Bills or the Chiefs in the postseason. I think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to allow 30 points.
So maybe this is from watching Jonathan Taylor in his college days down in Wisconsin, because in fairness, he has not shown, besides the Packers game.
As somebody that somehow traded Jonathan Taylor in fantasy, he ain't been the guy.
Yeah, he has not been the guy. But I do have, and maybe this is misplaced, and I do have confidence that he can get it going. And if he gets it going, I think he can alleviate enough pressure off Phillip Rivers' shoulders to have them beat the Steelers. Maybe not the Chiefs, but maybe but the Steelers.
You need to beat the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl.
Fair enough, but they can make a run. And there's a chance on any given Sunday they could win.
If I may add something, the thing is, I don't think they need to be a great offense. They just need to be a decent offense. Now, I'm thinking in history, in the past few years, there have been teams with very not necessarily great quarterbacks that have made serious runs in the playoffs and have been serious contenders. Like I think I'm looking at the 2017 Jaguars with Blake Bortles, right? Like that offense, they had the Patriots up, I believe it was 14 points in the game for the Super Bowl. And obviously they did not make it, but I think it's hard to say you can do that and not be a serious contender. And
if I may, because I know that Jacksonville Jaguars team really well. This is a Jacksonville Jaguars team that had arguably one of the best defenses in the history of the game. Yeah. This is a game where these players have gone to other teams and turned them into top defenses. Jalen Ramsey is out there shutting people down. Miles Jack is phenomenal. Calais Campbell, they threw a damn parade in Baltimore when he got on their roster. From Yannick Ngakoue to Abuye out there in Denver, AJ Bouye. This Colts defense is good, but I do agree. I think Dan was saying it, that I'm not sure they're elite. And there's one main reason. They are predominantly a zone defense. And while zone defenses are really good, when you play a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who has weapons that can get open, you are beatable. That's what we saw a little bit with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Rams on Monday night. They were able to find the pockets in the zone. The great defenses, the Patriots defense when they had Darrelle Revis, the Jaguars defense when they had Jalen Ramsey, the Ravens defense back in 2001, they had Chris McAllister. You have a lot of good pieces, but you need to have a shutdown corner so that you can play 10-on-9, because every team has a weapon that you need to shut down. And while Rock Ya-Sin is really good, and they got some other talented guys back there, Kenny Moore I really like, none of them are. Xavier Rhodes is way past his prime.
He was great at the Vikings.
It's a defense where you can't play zone against Patrick Mahomes because they're just going to sit. They're going to sit Kelsey right there in the middle.
Yeah, especially when you Colts rush 4, play cover 2. I mean, you're going to have Mahomes or Rodgers just pick that apart. It's
how you beat cover 2. You just send Tyreek Hill as far down as he can go.
Yeah, and then have Kelsey run underneath.
Yeah,
it's just
for me, this Colts team, I'm confused. I don't know where to put them because, Ellis said their defense is great, but their offense, it just has not performed the way it was expected to. T.Y. Hilton is one of the best yardage receivers last year. He is nothing this year. He's been terrible, and not just fantasy-wise, which obviously has been terrible, but he has not produced. He hasn't had over a 100-yard game this season, which is just shocking.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton is turning into like Deshaun Jackson, where you get him for one game and you lose him for 2. But I think the one thing of hope I do have is they had 2 draft picks that were supposed to bring in a lot of juice. Jonathan Taylor, who has sparks, but genuinely we're questioning his vision. He runs into a shitload of his own offensive linemen. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. I apologize.
You can curse.
We'll bleep it out. Don't worry.
But I will say these last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, Michael Pittman is everything that we thought
he's
he
been
was going to
great.
be out of USC. This is going to go down as historically one of the best wide receiver drafts in a very long time. Last year was really good with DK, McLaurin, AJ Brown. 2014 was legendary. Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Odell Beckham Jr., Brandon Cooks, so many people. But Michael Pittman was supposed to be one of these possible first-round pick guys, and they're finally using him in a really good way. Sweeps, crossers, ways that he gets the ball early and turns it upfield. Early in the season, they were trying to throw 50-50 balls. So to Jacob's point, I think he can be a weapon. But if you're trying to make a run this year, I don't think he's ready to carry a team this year. He's not an AJ Brown. He's not a DK Metcalf. Those guys are truly like T.O. clones.
And I think one last to go back to Jeremy's point about, that the team and evaluating whether defense is good enough to carry them. I could buy into that if Philip Rivers wasn't turning the ball over so much. That's why I've said it before on this podcast where Philip Rivers, he doesn't just not win you games, he could lose you games. So in the playoffs, if it's one of those ugly 2017 games, I worry about him having a costly turnover that gives the other team a short field. So that's kind of my worry right there.
I think that's fair. I think the last thing I will say is that Philip Rivers is a lot more experienced than Blake Bortles was at the time. He does have experience on being on very good teams. So I just think I trust him a little bit more than I would trust Blake Bortles.
Great point, Jeremy. Also, it's insulting to compare Philip Rivers, a top 5 quarterback all time in terms of yardage and so many other categories, to Blake Bortles.
Obviously, that's insulting. But I think in that,
I'm glad that we here on Who's on Top can justify that.
Look, I apologize. I don't want to. I was wrong. But my point is that in that playoff run, Blake Bortles was very good. I don't think he turned over the ball in the Patriots game that they almost won. I don't think they turned the ball over in the Steelers game. So that's what I'm saying. And I don't know if Philip Rivers can string together, I know Blake Bortles sucks. But I don't think Philip Rivers can string together 2 or 3 games of really efficient, clean football.
I don't know. Daniel, Philip Rivers has a lot of practice carrying people on his back. He has 9 kids. I think he'll be just fine. All right, let's move on to Cardinals. Daniel, I know you have the case for the Cardinals. What do you think here?
Yeah. Look, after week 2, I was very high on the Cardinals, and they lost 2 in a row, and I was up and down. But right now, I'm back to being all in. In terms of yardage, this is the best team in the NFL. That includes the Chiefs. That includes the Packers. That includes all these dominant offenses. And it's not just stats. You look at their weapons. Kirk, Hopkins, Fitzgerald still contributing, and Kyler Murray, dual threat. They have the weapons to compete with anybody in the league on every day. And I know you guys are going to bring up the defense, right? It's slightly below average, but it's not a liability. It's like 20th in the league. So it's below average, but I don't think it's, it's not going to lose them, it's not going to be their downfall, okay? And they have a number of playmakers in the secondary when you talk about Budda Baker, Patrick Peterson. And I think their defensive stats have been blown a little bit worse because they played a lot of really good offenses. And we've seen when they play really good offenses, they can still win that game because they have the offensive weapons. And this is a flawed NFC this year, right? I don't see one dominant team. Can the Saints even keep up with the Cardinals? So I think it would be foolish right now to just eliminate the Cardinals just because their defense is a little below average or their quarterback's experienced.
Yeah, I think that's a fair case for it. Adam, what do you think here?
Yeah, I had a lot of fear about the Cardinals this season, and it was right after the Jets game. So they beat the Jets 30-10. Everything looked great. Deep throw to DeAndre Hopkins. And then after the game, it came out that Chandler Jones was getting season-ending surgery. And I wondered what it was going to do in that Monday Night Football game against the Cowboys. Well, the Cardinals were so good. I mean, Kyler Murray is a top 5 MVP vote getter right now. They won 38-10, and nobody really thought about it. Since then, they've allowed 34, 34, 30, 28. No offense, Dan. You can keep your yardage stats. All I care about are points because I know we're going to talk about this game later. The Ravens ran for 250 yards against the Steelers last time, and they lost the game. So yardage, you can go up and down the field, but unless you put it in the end zone, that's really all that matters. What I think scares me from this perspective is the Seahawks game that they won in overtime. They were down 10 with 2 minutes left. Kyler Murray, heroic comeback, came back, pulled a Russell Wilson on. Russell Wilson went to overtime, got the win. Then they go to Miami, and Kyler Murray is in a shootout with Tua, and he's just trying to make things happen, had a fumble return for a touchdown, all that. Buffalo Bills, remember, it took a Hail Mary to get that win. So now you have a Russell Wilson comeback, a Hail Mary, and then a loss to Tua, who just got benched in a game to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, everyone's saying that Russell Wilson is getting tired from having to carry a team all the time. Russell Wilson is an 8-year vet. Russell Wilson knows what's going on. Kyler Murray is in his second season and still having the entire team on his back right now. I think he's a little bit too reliant on DeAndre Hopkins. I think that he loves to run. I think Kyler Murray is a top. If you're picking a quarterback to go forward in the NFL in the next 10 years, in my opinion, it's Mahomes, Watson, Kyler Murray. That's how high I am on Watson, but Kyler Murray's right there. This Arizona team has a chance. I believe this team is going to the playoffs. Do I think that they are built to go to the Super Bowl? I do. We in. And here's why. Because I think the rest of the NFC is weak as shit too. And what I mean is, when I look around, the Buccaneers are flawed. If the Saints are very, very good, but if you get a bad Drew Brees game, Kyler Murray can stay up with that team the entire time. It's not like the AFC. It's not the Chiefs and the Steelers. The Saints are beatable. Their quarterback is Taysom Hill right now. I picked the Saints to go to the Super Bowl before the year, but I have a lot of question marks about the Arizona Cardinals. I do not think that they're a Super Bowl contender in terms of how they're built, but they have a guy that if there's a chance, he can get them there because he's that crazy. But what Dan needs is for Kyler Murray to go nuclear and to do what Mahomes did in his second season, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson in his second season, MVP. He needs to take that huge jump. And it starts now against the New England Patriots this weekend. The only reason I'm saying we in is because I think the NFC is soft.
Jacob, tell me, why are we out?
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily completely out on the Cardinals. I just don't think they have, of all the teams in the NFC, as we all know, it's weak. But I think there are better teams that possess a much better defense and a much more balanced offense. As Dan said, the yardage with the Cardinals. Obviously, Kyler Murray, a lot of pass yards and a lot of rush yards. I think he's averaging around 70 per game. But the running backs, they're nothing. Kenyon Drake, pretty injury prone, hasn't played consistently well. Chase Edmonds, I don't even know what to say. He's been a decent fantasy back, but his yardage and his stats just don't show on the field. And as Adam said, Chandler Jones' injury, season ending. Pat Pete has not played up to his potential that we expected him to. So this defense is going to really have to stand up and play much better for this team to make a deep run into the playoffs, in my opinion.
If I may add something. So I think to be honest with you, I look at it as this. I think if the Cardinals won the division, they have a strong enough team that they could make a push. I think they're a very good team. They're not a great team. So I don't think they're strong enough to make it if they have a wild card spot. And that's going on the road and have an extra game. And I guess, so I kind of did it mathematically to an extent, that right now the Cardinals are 1-1 with the Seahawks. They're down one game. If you look at their remaining schedule, at least the way I see the Seahawks, there's only two kind of hard games on the Seahawks schedule left, the Rams and the 49ers. I think it's fair to say the Seahawks will likely go at worst 4-2. In my opinion, likely go 5-1. I'll split those 1-1. The Cardinals, on the other hand, play the Rams twice and play the 49ers once. So I see they have 3 hard games. So at least the way I see it is that the Cardinals would have to go likely 4-2 or 5-1, which is very hard. And I think just mathematically, it's hard for them, in my mind, to jump above the Seahawks, who right now are even below the Rams. And so I just think if they can't, I don't really see there being that good a path for them to win the division. And if they don't win the division, I can't see them making a push.
And Adam brought up a good point, is points. And so looking at the games here, they've won 3 games by more than one score, and they're against the Washington football team. That's a little weird to me. The Jets and the Cowboys. Those are 3 really bad teams. The rest of their games, they either win by 1 score, or they lose by 1 score, or in the case of the Panthers, they lost by 2 scores. But I'll give them just a bad week on that one. But either way, they have not beaten an average team by more than 1 score. Every single game is overtime or close. Kyler Murray can do it. And, some teams are just clutch like that. I don't think you get into the playoffs. You get more experienced teams. They're going to you can't just keep every game one score and preying on your luck. I mean, Hail Mary to beat the Bills. They lost the Dolphins by 3. They're not winning convincingly any of their games against any other than the bottom feeders of the NFL.
But Ellis, if they do win by 1 score, right? They keep on this tiny margin of victory, right? And they keep on getting these clutch plays and clutch drives. That makes a big difference when you're talking in the playoffs.
It does say something. I just don't think you can maintain that for.
You don't think it's sustainable to be that clutch for that long,
yeah. And then remember,
especially for a second-year quarterback.
Yeah,
and I think that we got to take into account how taxing these 4 games have been. A game that went well into overtime against the Seahawks, then Dolphins, Bills, and then short turnaround against the Seahawks. Those are 4 playoff teams, and one of those games went into overtime. One of them went into Thursday night. So I view them as a team that is going to keep getting better. That I know Adam said Murray's over relying on Hopkins, which I agree with, but it says something that this early in their career together, that they already have this connection. So I think Murray's going to get better, and Kingsbury at spreading the ball around, incorporating the running game even more. And I think they're going to build something really good going into the playoffs. And I don't really fear, especially with not many fans in attendance in the playoffs, I think they could go on, and a flawed NFC, I think they could go on the road and beat a Green Bay, beat a Tampa Bay, someone like that.
It'll be interesting. I think the other thing that you were talking about was competition. Of all the teams that are in the playoffs right now, Arizona is the 3rd to last in terms of strength of victory. So how good are the records of the teams that you've beaten? And the only teams that are below them are Philadelphia, who, let's be honest, I don't know how they're still in the playoffs, and Cleveland. And Cleveland has really beat up on a lot of bad teams to get to their 7-3. But the one thing I will disagree with Jeremy as he was breaking down the math is they do control their own destiny if they sweep the Rams. Now, Kyler Murray was swept by the Rams last year, and in both games, Sean McVay was able to tear that defense apart. And Kyler Murray can't control that. Kyler Murray can't control what happens on the defensive side. The question is, will they be able to protect him from Aaron Donald and get it going? Because if they sweep the Rams, they take over control of the NFC West. And suddenly you're going from wild card every game to now you got a home game in Arizona, and now we can kind of go on the road from there. So they do control their destiny, but I'm missing the firepower on defense, and I don't know if I think Kyler is sensational. He's my favorite young quarterback other than Mahomes and Watson, but you're needing magic, and he can give it to you, but I'm not betting on it.
Murray magic, it happens. All right, last we in, we out. Seahawks, hell of a team. I want Jacob. You want to give the pro case for this one?
Yeah,
I know you absolutely love Russell Wilson. So.
Yeah, I love Russell Wilson, and as we know, early in the season, he was the leader or one of the leaders for the MVP race. Recently, he has slowed down. He has been throwing a lot of interceptions the past couple of weeks. I believe 8 in the last 4 games, which is very un-Russell Wilson-like. And we all know their defense is not good, but they've won games without having a great defense before. And their offense is prolific. DK Metcalf, not good comparing to Calvin Johnson, but he's great. DK Metcalf's great. Tyler Lockett's great. And Chris Carson, when he's healthy, he's pretty good. And as we all saw last week, Carlos Hyde performed very well. And in my opinion, if Russell Wilson can clean up his turnovers, which I have no doubt in my mind that he can and will do, they have the best shot in the NFC of making a Super Bowl run. And I also think that back to the math last game with last time with Jeremy with the Cardinals, the Seahawks schedule super easy. They get the Eagles, Giants. Hopefully the Giants can get a win. Jets, Washington, and then Rams, Niners to end out the season. So I see them going 5-1. And to me, they win their division and they take it pretty far into the postseason.
Adam, what do you have for us?
Listen, they lose back-to-back games, and then they get a much-needed win on a short week, and their defense came alive in that Arizona game. Their next 4 games, as Jacob just said, is 3 NFC East teams and the New York Jets. If they go on a 4-game winning streak, in addition to Arizona, so a 5-game winning streak, which I think we all think is possible, the Seahawks are sitting there at 11-3. And I need you to then look at their home and away record. Right now, their home record is 5-0. Their away record is 2-3. If they go to 11-3, and let's say the Saints stumble one time, let's say the Packers stumble one time, which is very, very doable. I mean, the Packers already have 3 losses. The Rams have 3 losses. It would just be New Orleans losing one more. You look at Seattle, and it all comes down to that Rams game. And the Rams have actually done really historically well against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. I think they actually have a very good record against them, which is a little bit shocking. I think it's because Sean McVay understands a lot of the ways to beat that Seattle defense. This is one of those teams that I go, they are a true Super Bowl contender. I'm in. We in. And I'm finally seeing the defensive guys starting to get there. I'm seeing Snacks Harrison start to play. I'm seeing Jamal Adams starting to get comfortable. They do not need to be a shutdown defense. They need to be what the Chiefs defense is, opportunistic and try to get the ball back to their quarterback, who is otherworldly. In the end, though, this all comes down to Russ. I am with Jacob. I believe that Russell Wilson, if he comes back, like, think about this. Everyone right now is crowning Mahomes as MVP. If Wilson goes on a 4-game tear and they're 11-3, people are not going to remember the teams that they played. Mahomes had great games against the Jets too. This could be, oh, wow, I can't believe we ever doubted the Seattle Seahawks. So I think the Seattle Seahawks are a true Super Bowl contender. And the main reason is they have Russell Wilson. And when you have Russell Wilson, you can do anything. But the schedule really sets up nice for them to take control. And if the playoffs have to go through Seattle, where if they're 11-3 and they're sitting there, that means they'd be 7-0 at home at that point. I have a lot of faith in the Seahawks getting it done.
So, Jeremy, I know you might be saying this like negative take about Seattle just because Jamal Adams left New York and is now all over the Seattle defense. But what do you think? Why is Adam wrong? Why is Jacob wrong?
Let me start by saying it pains me to say anything bad about Jamal Adams. I have his jersey. I love Jamal Adams.
He blew you a kiss.
You did blow me a kiss. I was at a Jets game and you blew me a kiss. Only a better player to do that. I will always love Jamal Adams. But I agree their defense is getting better. And they definitely could be a contender and they could be wrong because Russell Wilson is amazing. And you can never entirely bet against Russell Wilson pulling some magic.
He's dangerous.
Let Russ cook. Let Russ cook.
We're talking about Kyler doing magic. Russell Wilson is always possible. Even if their defense gets better, I think there's no feasible way in my mind it can get to the point where the Chiefs defense is. But if you look at how bad they've been giving up 28.7 points a game on average, right? That's against including both the good teams they played and the weaker offenses they played. I know if you look at the things they've lost 2 games so far where they've scored 34 points, which is almost insane to have a defense twice give up that many points. You can have an insane offensive day and still lose.
And they were a yard away from 3 of those losses.
They were a yard away from 3 of them. That's true, actually, against the Patriots too. And I think to me, it's essentially I don't think this defense can get to a point where I feel comfortable saying that they are a contender. I think you're absolutely right. They could win the division because I remember I said in my last take that they have a very easy strength of schedule. And I'm actually not, to me, this doesn't even really depend on whether Russell Wilson is the MVP, because I think he very well could be the MVP at the end of it. I just think against a really good team that can control the clock, like the Rams, who have a good offense and a run defense that is, I'm sorry, I said that wrong, that has a good running offense and a strong defense that can maybe not even shut Russell down, but at least shut him down to the point where he doesn't maybe score 30 and maybe scores 28 or something like that, right? They score 28 based on their average points per game, they lose the game. So I just don't think the defense in my mind can get to a point where I can see them as serious contenders.
Defense wins championship. Danny, you have something to say?
Yeah, just Jeremy, before these last 2 games, I completely agreed with you. But the fact that they have held 2 great offenses under 25 points gets me really encouraged. And if you look at the track record of Pete Carroll Seahawks teams, they they play their best football after Thanksgiving. Well, where are we now? Next week is after Thanksgiving. So I trust Pete Carroll as a coach. I trust Russell Wilson. And another thing, Carlos Hyde had a really good day rushing last game. So you look at the pieces starting to come together. I have the coach. And now they've already played. Basically, they have the Rams again. But they've played all their good teams. As Adam said, they got 4 easy games. Now they're starting to hit their stride. And now they just get to the easy part of their schedule.
And just a real quick point. I mean, Dan mentioned Carlos Hyde. I am very high on Chris Carson. I mean, he's been out for 4 weeks. This is a bruiser running back. Even if he's not getting yards or touchdowns, he's making your defense work for the tackle. He is tiring your defense out. They miss his presence. Wilson misses his presence. This offense misses his presence. He's most likely coming back this week. Maybe not. Hopefully for my fantasy team he is, but he's most likely coming back this week. And if he does, this adds a whole nother element to their offense, where offenses now have to worry about Carlos Hyde, fine running back, but no one's worrying about Carlos Hyde. I think you worry about Chris Carson.
All right. So that's been we in, we out. Right, Danny?
Man, I was going to add one more thing.
All right, go ahead.
Since Sean McVay got to the Rams, just to add some actual statistics to what I was saying, the Rams are 5-2 against the Seahawks since Sean McVay got there. The first one they lost was 16-10. They covered the spread in both times they lost, which means it was a lot closer than Vegas thought. And what does scare me is that the last time they played, Seattle scored 16. The last time they played in 2019, Seattle scored 12. So that's 2 games in a row where Russell Wilson has not been able to score points against this defense. And it's because it's the one aspect that can mess up any quarterback, which is pressure right in your face. It messes up Tom Brady. It messed up Peyton Manning. It messes up Russell Wilson. I talked to Josh Allen about this. It's because when you have a rusher on your left, you see a flare in your left eye. When you have a rusher on your right, you see a flare in your right eye, so you can step up in the pocket. When Aaron Donald is rushing, colors just come in your face. And you're like, what the hell is that? And that's Aaron Donald. And so Russell Wilson is the king of stepping up in the pocket and running if he has to. But if we're playing stocks, buy Seattle stock now. And if you want to sell it like Jeremy, you sell it before the Rams game in 4 weeks when everyone's crowning them. But now is a great time to tell your friends, hey, look out for the Seahawks. Next thing you know, they're 11-3 and they're saying you're a genius. And that's when you hit them with the, I don't know, now I'm actually selling. So you could buy and sell and look really good to your friends.
Yeah. And honestly, I think to me, that's kind of it. It's honestly not even that they can't win the division. It's just that I see the Rams as a much more complete team. I see Green Bay, although I know they did beat the Colts, I see them as a more complete team that has at least some sort of defense. And I just don't trust the Seattle defense then.
I feel the same way about the Rams as I do about the Raiders. And what I mean is on Sunday Night Football, they had the Chiefs exactly where they wanted them. But in the end, I'm sitting there and I'm going, Mahomes or Derek Carr? Mahomes or Derek Carr? And Derek Carr played great. But Jared Goff gives me the same vibes, where it's like, in the end, who am I going with? And I'm taking Russ. But I think there's some great points, and I think Seattle's got to have to prove a lot to everybody to really make a run.
Daniel, you want to conclude your segment saying we in, we out in your voice?
Do we really want to hear that?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Who's in? Who's out?
All right.
Lovely.
Nice.
All right. So before we move on to our final round of
People at
predictions,
home right now are like, I'm in.
So before we move on to our final round of predictions, it's been quite a ride in terms of who's winning, who's not, but we're all kind of clustered in right now in terms of wins and losses and predictions. So Adam, we just wanted to ask you before this whole last round of predictions goes down, give us your little nuggets of wisdom and like what goes into a calculus for you when you choose a game. So these guys can internalize that.
Or straight up.
We do straight up.
Straight up.
Straight up.
Side spread.
Yeah, winner loser.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we go simplified.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for sure.
But trust me, these guys need it simplified sometimes. So
Okay, Ori.
Well, I think what I look at a few things. The 3 things that I care about the most are who's your quarterback, who's your head coach, and how's your offensive line doing? Because there's nothing worse than picking a team whose quarterback is praying for their life the entire time. That's when you feel hopeless. That's when you're watching a game and you made a pick with your friends and you're like, I am praying for a punt return. If I am trying to pick the team that it would be shocking if we're picking straight up that I feel as though I would have control and you would need to have a special play happen in order for me to lose. I think that sometimes we get very caught up in narrative. Like I think the narrative of Ravens Steelers is going to be the Ravens backs against the wall. They got to have this one. Steelers are 10-0. And I'm going, this is like the best rivalry in the NFL. You think the Steelers are going to be like, oh, those Ravens, they're not doing too well. We should take it easy on them. No, they're going bash these idiots' head in. They're 6-4. If we make them 6-5, we might have to see them in the playoffs. Also, the Ravens, they just got out toughed by Tennessee. They came and danced on their logo, and then Derrick Henry ran all over them. They're going to be tougher. And I'm sitting here going, you think the Steelers are tough? Like the Steelers are like, hey, guess what? You're weak. We're coming for you. So I look at it. I'm just going to transition into picking this game.
Yeah.
Is that the first game we're doing?
Yeah, it is.
Thursday night Thanksgiving, 8:20. I just think if I'm watching this game, what's the perfect scenario for Baltimore to get this upset? They probably control the flow of the game. They probably dominate time of possession. They probably dominate running the ball. They probably get out to an early lead, right? That's the problem. That's what happened 3 weeks ago. They outran them by 200 yards, 250-50. They won time of possession by 11 minutes. And then they went up by 10 points. Look, Steelers jumped out to a pick six, but the Ravens were up 17-7. And here come the Steelers. I don't know if there's any easy way for the Ravens to get this win. The big thing that hurt them last time, they turned the ball over 4 times. The Steelers turned the ball over 1 time. You cannot predict turnovers. Don't factor that in. But the way I look at it is I understand they're desperate. The Steelers are the much better team. And if we're picking straight up, I'm going the Steelers. I think that it's going to have to be a sensational Lamar Jackson game. And all those Mark Andrews passes that bounced off his fingers, he's got to catch. Hollywood Brown has to show up. But it's Gus Edwards. There's no Mark Ingram. There's no J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins ran for 100+ last time they played. If we're doing straight up, I like the Steelers. And I think it's going to be a classic AFC North 20-17, 23-20 type of game.
All right.
Still a grueling matchup. Ellis, you want to
so
give your 2 cents of wisdom here?
Adam is our guest, and I'm going to use his logic for this pick right here. Right? Let's go through the line. Head coach. No disrespect to John Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach. I'm taking Mike Tomlin right now. Quarterback. Lamar Jackson, definitely more dynamic, but who do I want to control the game? Who do I feel safer right now with the ball in his hands? Big Ben. He's not flashy. He's not prime Big Ben, but he's going to hit his receivers. He's going to get Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews, maybe this is probably their fault as well, go missing in games, and that has something to do with Lamar Jackson. So I'm going Big Ben in this. And offensive line.
Offensive line.
I'm going to be honest. I know the Steelers offensive line is pretty good. I'm not entirely sure the Ravens offensive line.
Let me fill you in the main reason why that my strategy works there. They lose their number 1 guard, maybe in the history of the franchise before the season starts and Matt Skura, he retires. And then a few weeks ago, their starting left tackle, Ronnie Stanley, goes out for the year. And if you wonder why Lamar Jackson doesn't have time, it's because the offensive line isn't the same. Oh, and they lost Hayden Hurst in free agency. Remember, they had 4 tight ends. They would all line them up last year. A lot of it is to protect Lamar. So, and the Ravens didn't have last week in their game against the Tennessee Titans, Brandon Williams or Calais Campbell. And while they could play, and that's totally a thing, it's a short week. That was 4 days ago. How much healthier are they going to be? Also, so the 2 main defensive linemen, it's a lot easier for James Conner, and Big Ben should have more time.
I believe Ingram and Dobbins are out from COVID.
Yep.
So it's also not going to help their case. I think this is a Steelers win. Can I see the Ravens pulling it out? Of course, but you got to pick Steelers here.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with Ellis, and I'm going to pick the Steelers. And, one thing I do a lot with my picks is that I look at the previous game. doesn't always work out for me. But I try to do that, and I look at last game and the Ravens coming off an emotional game against the Titans,
Tennessee.
and the Steelers off a very easy game against the Jaguars, and now they're on a short week. I want to pick the Ravens because I just don't feel like the Steelers are the 16-0 team. They have not dominated like a 16-0 team usually does, and I think there's a loss waiting for them. But I don't think it's here because, as you said, Dobbins and Ingram are out. There's going to be pressure on Jackson to both be the primary runner and have a good game throwing. And I think this is just a pass rush that can keep him in the pocket, make him the pocket passer that he's not, and force him to throw it down the field. And I think the Steelers Roethlisberger will play a clean game. I think they'll control the ball, and I see sort of a 23-13 win.
Jeremy, I know you've kind of adopted the Ravens now that you've moved to John Hopkins there, but what do you think? Definitely better than the Jets.
When you are a Jets fan, you got to do what you got to do. No, I'm kidding. But on a real note, I am picking the Ravens, and I think here's why, what it comes down to. The first thing is the Steelers, yes, they're 10-0, but they're a much closer 10-0 than you would think, as kind of Dan was alluding to. They've been in 6 one-possession games. I know part of that, it's the Steelers. Steelers play down to opponents. They've done the same thing for years, so I know that's part of it. But that said, it still is not a dominant 10-0, so I think it is definitely possible. Secondly, in the last game, the Ravens had almost double the yardage, and in my opinion, kind of outplayed the Steelers to an extent. And while I agree yardage is not points, it shows that they can move the ball on the Steelers. And I think we mentioned turnovers. They had 4 turnovers last game. I agree you cannot predict turnovers, but 4 turnovers for Lamar Jackson is, I'm pretty sure, significantly above his average and is, in my opinion, an anomaly. So I'm just assuming if it goes back to the average, let's say he only has 2 turnovers, that's a 1 turnover difference. If that's the game, in my opinion, the Ravens won the game. And I think I agree that definitely it's not that the Steelers won't play hard, but that said, I do think if a team loses in an emotional loss, it's a good team. And I do consider the Ravens are a good team. I do think they often tend to bounce back the week after. So I think because of that, I think this is kind of a trap game for the Steelers to an extent. Not that they can't win. They're 10-0. They're an amazing team. Of course they can win. But I think I would say the Ravens are going to affect this game.
I just want to say, just play a little devil's advocate. I was thinking about this. You make the point that, yeah, they outgained them by 200 yards. But if they outgain them on the ground, at least, but if they outgain them by so much with 2 running backs they don't have this time and still lost, what does that say about this game when now they're on the road on a short week after an emotional...
I need to address something. I'm tired of this Steelers slander. This happens every year where a team starts off with an unblemished record and everyone says they're actually not as good as their record. I mean, we have Jeremy over here erasing turnovers and saying, oh, it would have been a Baltimore win. Like he just erased 2 turnovers and said they're going to win. Let's say this. Of every team in the NFL, the Steelers have the largest overall net point difference, which means how many points have they scored and how many points have their opponents scored. They are plus 124. The Chiefs are plus 107. So they've literally outscored their opponents more than any other team in the NFL. That's one thing. Number 2, let's look at this defense. They're number 1 in interceptions. They're number 1 in sacks. They're 7th against the run. They're 3rd against the pass. They are absolutely dominant offensively. And then you look at their schedule. Let's go there. They just steamrolled the Jaguars. They steamrolled the Bengals. The Cowboys was a tough game. They started off slow, but they won that one. The Ravens, they were up. They were down, came back. Titans, they were up 27-7 over the Titans. And good for the Titans. They came out, but they were dominating that game. Dominated a 7-3 Browns team. The Eagles team, I'm an Eagles fan. They were beating the crap out of the Eagles, and the Eagles just got some late, like garbage Blake Bortles touchdowns to make it look close. The Steelers have been dominating everybody. And the reason that I really have faith in the Steelers team is because they're not the old Steelers team, which was run, Big Ben deep ball and 3rd down. They aren't even trying to run anymore. I mean, this is 4 wide receivers. It'll be 4th and 1, and Big Ben's like, I'm throwing it to Claypool. I'm throwing a screen at Deontay Johnson. For me, Dan, I think, hit it in the beginning, or it may have been Ellis, which was Big Ben right now, I trust him more. And the main reason is he's not afraid to get rid of the ball early. Big Ben's number 1 issue, when as somebody that really enjoyed watching him play, was It's a little bit like what Carson Wentz does. It's a little bit what Josh Allen does, which is I'm so big and nobody can sack me that I'm going to hold on to this ball for as long as humanly possible and wait for Antonio Brown to get open. That was Big Ben for a decade. Now Big Ben is like, wait, if I get it to that really huge Claypool guy, you mean I don't get hit and I get credit for all the yards after catch? It's like he finally realized that he gets credit for yards after catch and it doesn't all have to be in the air. I think right now people are sleeping on Pittsburgh, and I think they're the one team in the NFL that can go toe to toe with the Chiefs, because they'll go, if you want to spread it out, we've literally done it in all 10 of our wins this year.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Adam here. Obviously, we know the Steelers' defense has been very, very good this year and biggest point differential in the league. But back to their offensive line. Lamar Jackson, 24 sacks, 8th most among all quarterbacks. Big Ben, only 10, 31st among quarterbacks. I think that's going to be a huge reason why the Steelers win this game. That's my pick, the Steelers. I love their weapons on offense. James Conner, I like. Their other running backs, they can get it done if Conner's injured or tired. And I love Claypool, my roommate Jake at Syracuse, huge Notre Dame fan, so he was obsessed with Chase Claypool. And I started to really like Claypool because of him. And Claypool's been great. Juju's had a pretty good season. And Deontay Johnson has emerged. 3 straight games over 70 yards, 2 straight games with over 100 yards. He had 12 catches in the last game. So you see the trust that Big Ben's starting to develop with Deontay Johnson. And I've hated on Lamar Jackson this season a lot. And I'm just going to continue it. He hasn't had a QBR over 100 in the last 6 games. And against the Steelers defense, I see that trend continuing. I'm seeing a 3rd straight loss for the Ravens here. And even though it is a must-win game, I'm pretty sure they're going to lose.
Yeah, I think both to Adam and Jacob's points here, I think we see Big Ben stop and realize that backyard football might not be the most effective form of football, especially when you don't have a talent like Antonio Brown out there. Like, you see him spreading the ball like I don't think he has in a really long time. You don't have Antonio Brown having 1,500, 1,600 yards. You see a lot of these like small, scrappy receivers getting like open, and it's not like he has to get open, but it's just he's hitting him early on routes, and instead of just waiting for the play to break down, rolling out of the pocket with this huge body and just flinging it down the field. You see him actually, developing into an NFL quarterback, not a backyard quarterback with a freak of nature. So I think, you really see that evolution of Big Ben. I think it's super interesting to see.
I mean, think about this stat. This is from Evan Silva. Big Ben from weeks 1 through 6 dropped back to pass 34.6 times. Week 7 through 11, he dropped back 43.4. So they're throwing it almost 9 times more per game. And in the last 5 starts, he's been sacked 2 times. So, and this is a Ravens defense that I said before, they're missing their 2 top defensive linemen in Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams with COVID. But even with all this said, where it sounds so convincingly Steelers, this is one of those games where if you're betting the spread, it's still going to be a 3-point game. I mean, we might be watching Thursday night and you guys are sitting there going, man, Lefkoe's an idiot. The Ravens are up 10. The Steelers can still win that game by 1 because that's how close it is when there's a divisional matchup. But I think what we're really all saying here is I don't think any of us believe in the Ravens long term. And it's sad, but it seems like there is a really good season hangover that hit the Ravens and the Niners this year.
It's kind of weird. Jeremy starts liking a team and they start going bad. All right. Anyone?
Jeremy.
Exactly.
I have one more point.
Go ahead, Jake.
And I think Jeremy, I'll go and then you can go.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So as Adam said, Ravens, not the long-term answer. And I think a big part of that, I've said it many times in many, many recent episodes, Lamar Jackson, teams are solving him. He's not he has the 64% completion percentage, which is pretty good for a quarterback, but he's not throwing for a lot of yards. He's not throwing a lot of touchdowns, and his rushing stats are way, way down compared to his second year, which is when he won MVP. And I think that's a huge reason for this team's failure this year. Not failure, but not living up to their expectations this year. And with the Steelers defense, there's no shot that Lamar Jackson gets over 50 or gets a lot of rushing yards, which is what they need to win this game.
Jeremy, you want to defend your name a bit?
Since I'm kind of alone here, I just think I should say kind of 3 more points. I think the first thing is that I'm not trying to slam the Steelers. I understand they are an amazing team. I just don't necessarily think they are 16-0, a 16-0 team. I agree they have the big point differential. They played a lot of teams close. And I think they're looking like 10-0, or like they could be 16-0, and I don't think they're that quality, like a historically good team. And I think the two other things, I know you said like they don't even try to run. To me, that's kind of in some ways more concerning to an extent, because that worries me if the Ravens are up, or if they get up on the Ravens, can they grind out the clock, which I'm not necessarily sure they can. To be fair with the Ravens don't play good from behind.
Right.
So I'm not sure how much of an issue.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, we did see the Steelers were up 27-7 on the Titans, and they blew that lead because they couldn't waste the clock. So it's a very good point.
And I think the last thing, you're right. I was racing turnovers, and they lost that game.
It's okay. I do that stuff too when I'm justifying. Like the Cardinal. I bet the other day on the Cardinals Bills game, and they kept settling for field goals. I was like, if two of those field goals were touchdowns, I hit the over. Like I was clearly correct on that.
With that said, I think the one thing I will say is that I don't think it's unfair to say that there's a good chance the turnovers go more back to an average turnover game.
That's why I think it's going to be that much closer. That's why I think it's going to be your 23-20 game because I don't see as many.
Sorry, I was going to say last game went down to the final play.
And these teams always battle when they play, so it should be a good one.
All right. So let's move on. Chiefs and Bucks. I'm going to let Daniel take this one away because he has a special connection to the Bucks here.
He's a big bandwagon fan.
So what week are we in? We're in week 12, so that's 11 picks, right? I've never picked against my Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and certainly not when they're playing at the big cruise ship. But things have changed.
You've been wrong 4 times, huh?
I've been wrong 4 times.
Yeah, sounds like a really great strategy. Just keep going with it.
I thought they were the better team in every team they played, but what I've seen 2 of the last 3 weeks is just not the team I thought they were, and when I evaluate this game that I expect them to be. Because let's just start on defense. They got picked apart by Jared Goff last game. And I hear so much about these linebackers are so fast. They have a great pass rush, but the secondary, it's inexperienced. There's blown coverages all over the place, and they're just, especially in zone, they just completely, I know the Rams have really good receivers, but so do the Chiefs. And let's go to offense. So let's talk about Tom Brady for a second.
Willie slander him.
Let's talk.
Definitely
Tom
not.
Brady had to be better than he was on Monday.
Wow, very impressive to hear from you.
And look, their center was out. Their left tackle got hurt in the first game of the season, and they're playing Aaron Donald. But I'm tired of those chucking the balls 40 yards, those ducks down the field 40 yards, and just to nobody. So part of that is on Bruce Arians. I think the ball needs to come out quicker. But when you have all these weapons, there is no excuse for this. There is no excuse for overthrowing Cameron Brate, double teams with the game on the line. Brady's got to be better. He's got to not turn the ball over. And we've seen 2 of the last 3 games. The Saints and the Rams, they could not run the ball. They need to run the ball. They need to get the ball out of Brady's hands quicker because he was getting demolished last game. And I just don't feel confident. I want to pick the Bucks. We all know I want to pick the Bucks. Adam knows. Adam doesn't even know me. He knows I want to pick the Bucks.
He wants that number 5, bro. He wants that 5th loss.
They won't be able. The secondary is going to get eaten alive by Hill and some double moves and some trickery, like we saw with Jared Goff. And I just don't feel like the offense can protect Brady well enough to score enough points. And I don't have confidence in Brady's deep ball right now. I don't. I think he looks good on intermediate stuff and short stuff, but I just don't think the big plays just aren't there.
Daniel, I know that really. I see the pain reeking off your face.
Daniel, what you just said would be the extent of me saying I don't like Saquon Barkley.
Nice. All right, Jake, I'm gonna.
At least one of us can make him fight.
Jake, go ahead and pick this game. I'm gonna let Faisal and Jeremy have a chance to go charge their laptop. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna agree with Fox with Daniel on this one. I'm thinking Chiefs. They had a very unlike the Chiefs game against the Raiders. They were not blowing them out. They had a close game. It came down to the wire. And obviously Mahomes being Mahomes, he led that 75-yard drive in under 2 minutes, and it made it look like a piece of cake. And this Bucs defense is not that great. And as Daniel said, this Bucs offense recently has not been that great. Chiefs defense, pretty average, but their offense way, way, way above average. And I think they're going to win this game just because they'll put up more points. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I can see both teams putting up definitely above 25, 30, maybe both above 30, but I think Chiefs pull this one out on top.
All right, Adam, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think the Bucs have been a part of like the two least enjoyable primetime games this year. The one where they destroyed Aaron Rodgers and it was like, what the hell just happened? And then the one where they got destroyed by the Saints. And I think when you look at the Bucs 4 losses, you see a very similar characteristic of the teams. Rams, Saints, Bears, Saints. Really good defenses. Really good defenses that take away all the short stuff for Tom Brady. And the Bucs are the number 1 run defensive team in the NFL. And so they're hoping that you just keep trying to run it into them, and it's not going to work. The Chiefs don't even really want to run. They just run so that people in the post-game press conferences go, Andy, hey, at least you ran it 8 times, so that Clyde Edwards-Helaire owners don't have a conniption.
That's me.
Yeah, I listen, I'm glad I took Derrick Henry over him in the first round. I got lucky.
Pass Kamara over him. Sorry. Off.
Yeah, that's a you problem, bro. But when a quarterback leads a last-second comeback like Patrick Mahomes did, it's so hard to bet against them next week because they feel like they're the kings of the mountain. But when it's Mahomes, they really are. Now, it is an advantage for Tampa Bay that they're going to be home for their second straight home game. This is the first time this season they've had back-to-back home games, which I think is interesting. The thing with the Bucs, though, there are times where Tom Brady doesn't look average. There are times he looks bad. There's a thing that we talked about earlier where Big Ben would hold the ball for so long. And Mahomes is so great at that. Mahomes can do the back pedal and he's still looking around like he did in the Super Bowl 3rd and 15 with Wasp, or he run backwards and figured it out. As soon as Tom Brady is pressured, the ball's coming out. And most of them are just going at the feet of a running back so that Tom Brady doesn't get intentional grounding. And the Tampa Bay Bucs a few weeks ago, they changed their center guard situation. They moved Ryan Jensen to guard and they brought in another center, AQ Shipley, because they're like, let's get smarter, bigger people on the offensive line. The same offensive line that Dan will tell you, everybody was championing for the first few weeks. Oh, he loves Ryan Jensen. Oh, that's the reason he went there. Look at all these guys, Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs. What a unit. I watched that unit get pummeled on Monday night. I watched that unit have Tom Brady running around with his head cut off. When Tom Brady has time, he's Tom Brady. Now, this is why I say the Chiefs defense is not great, but they're built to be the Chiefs defense. You can run on the Chiefs defense, you can have success, and you can have drives on the Chiefs defense. But every now and then, Chris Jones is going to get in there, where Tyrann Mathieu is going to get a pick, and that's when they put Mahomes back on the field, and suddenly you're down 14. And now suddenly it's come for quarterback every single play. And that's why I mean they're built for that Chiefs offense. They're not the Steelers. They're not trying to be. In fact, they don't want to be on the field for that long. They want to get the hell off the field. I have major questions about the Tampa Bay Bucs, and I do not like having major questions when I'm going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm sorry, Dan. This is number 5 for you. And then you know what? Then you have a bye.
4 because I picked the Chiefs, so we're still on 4.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. But they're going to be 7-5. They're going to go into the bye. Everyone's going to say, "What the hell's wrong with Tom Brady? They're falling apart." And then they go Vikings, Falcons, Lions, Falcons, and suddenly they're 11-5 and they're a wild card in the playoffs, and nobody wants to face that team. I'm just saying, if they got to go to the Dome against the Saints, I know they've lost to them twice. I would rather Tom Brady go to the Dome than go to Lambeau, because he ain't doing nothing in a snowstorm in January with the way his arm is currently made. But I think they lose this game. I'm sorry, Dan.
Well, I just, I feel like Tom Brady got attacked there. And when Tom Brady gets attacked, I feel like I get attacked. I mean, I've seen this the last
I'm not taking away any of his 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying the man's 43 years old, and when
Only
there's
Eli Manning can do that.
22-year-olds running at his face, he's not the way he used to be.
So, as someone who's watched him throughout his career, the last 3 years, I've seen him get off to good starts with the ball coming out well, and there's a lot of zip on the ball, and the deep ball even looks
And
pretty.
then his arm gets tired.
And I just think, especially now, when you have 12 straight weeks with no bye, I mean, it's just he doesn't want to get hit. And I mean, he's 43. Can you blame him? But he gives you all about this TB12. But he knows he can't get hit every time. He knows he's 43, and I think he really needs to buy. And I just, there's just so many weapons here that it's hard to really give up on them. But
I think Louis Riddick said it really good after the game. He said when they were going to Mike Evans, they had a lot of success. And the thing that I think that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick figured out later on in their careers was our offense is really good. However, we need 50-50 guys. We need guys that if shit ain't working, I can lob it up and they're coming down with it. Gronk was one of those guys in his prime. Mike Evans is that guy now. The sad thing is the slants to Godwin, the throws underneath to Tyler Johnson, all those plays, they're great when it's clicking. But in that game on Monday night, sometimes you just got to look over and go, Evans, I'm lobbing it up to you because he can make that play. He's the one guy, Dan, that I trust on that team consistently. Leonard Fournette, I don't know what happened to him. Ronald Jones, he had one run against the Carolina Panthers that accounted for like 60% of his yards in a 197-yard rushing game. I think that Tom Brady needs to stop trying to throw the perfect pass and sometimes just go, hey, man, let's just lob it up to Evans. Let's just see what he can give us right now.
And one quick point before I give it to you guys. I just want to say I think the lack of a true pass-catching back is really a detriment to this team because we've seen Brady do that for 20 years, his entire career, but we've seen Ronald Jones that have to draw problems. Leonard Fournette, I know Ellis hates him some Leonard Fournette, but there's just...
I mean, talk about falling off. That dude was Derrick Henry before Derrick Henry. What the hell happened?
He was so good in big college football.
He was actually after
Jacksonville happened.
Yeah, but
they ran him 700 times because of Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles.
Getting back together.
Blake Bortles ruining the
It all comes back to Blake Bortles.
Ability is completely gone. Anyway, I don't know. To be honest, Adam and Dan both said a lot of my points. So I'm going to keep this very brief. Mahomes and this Chiefs offense is dynamic, and the Chiefs defense is built for them. I mean, they've got playmakers to make a few stops, get a few turnovers, get a few sacks. That's all they need. I think you guys kind of summed it up. They're dynamic. I honestly don't have that much to say. Chiefs win this.
Yeah, I'm going to also try to be brief. I think for me, essentially what it comes down to is I think it could really go either way, and I don't entirely know, to be honest, because, like, if you look at the Buccaneers, they scored 45 points or over 2 of the past 5 weeks. They scored under 25 the other 3 weeks. So I think it certainly is possible the Buccaneers could just absolutely outscore the Chiefs. But I think the Chiefs have been more consistent. They've scored over 30 each of the past 5 weeks. Albeit the last 2 games, to be fair, were very close games. And, like, one-possession games they barely won. With that said, I think you can't pick against the Chiefs. They're just a more consistent team. But in reality, I see like 55 Chiefs, like 45 Bucks.
Wow.
I do think the Bucks will win.
Well, I just don't think the Bucks can keep up with that pace. I just think they don't have the...
Oh, no. I mean like 55%.
Wait.
Oh.
I thought the Bucks scored 55 points, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
55%.
And why did they add up to 100? Oh,
because it's 100%.
What a weird way to...
Okay, no, not the score. No. That's a high score. No, absolutely not the score. Like,
I'm very interested to see. This is the first team in a while that's had some linebackers that can match up with Travis Kelce and spy Mahomes in Devin White and the kid out of Nebraska, Levante David. And so I am curious because the last 2 weeks, Travis Kelce has just destroyed teams, absolutely destroyed teams in the Panthers and the Raiders. The question will always be, does Mahomes connect with Tyreek Hill? Because when he connects with Tyreek Hill, it's like Steph Curry pulling up from the logo. When that happens, you watch the soul of another team escape their body. You're like, oh, we're stopping them. And then there's 60 yards to the freak. So And it's a little bit like how they call the NBA a make or miss league, where if you're hitting all your threes, you can win. If you're not, you're going to lose. But I do think, as we're talking about this, that it is going to be an interesting matchup. You cannot sell the Bucks short. The big question that you have is, can they convert third downs and keep the ball moving? Because I think Spagnuolo is an attacking defensive coordinator, and he's going to say, let's get up on all the wide receivers. If Tom Brady's going to beat us deep, he's going to have to consistently beat us deep. And I think, and the thing is if Tom Brady connects on some of those Mike Evans balls, or somebody breaks a tackle and goes the distance, it's a whole nother game. So again, this is a little bit like what I was saying about the Steelers-Ravens game. Here we are saying it's Chiefs. This game could be very close coming down the stretch. I just think in the end, and I think we're all correct, how do you pick Tom Brady over Patrick Mahomes right now after what we just saw last week? The only value you're getting is taking the Bucks and the points. But if we're doing straight up, give me Mahomes all day.
And just one quick point, the thing that really worries me about the Chiefs is you see all the motions, all the quick passes. That's what we saw with the Rams last week. And the the Buccaneers had no answer. They're really not a good tackling team. They're fast, they're dynamic, they're athletic. But like that screen at the end of the half, there are 3 guys there. So that's what worries me against a team with speed and a defense that struggles to tackle.
I guess the one thing I'd say for the Bucks is that the Chiefs I know they often have, even going back to last year, they fall into holes in games. And I just think if the Bucks are having an on night, if they're scoring like a 40-point game, or like a high 30-point game, I could just see getting to a point where the Chiefs just dig themselves too deep a hole to come back.
Trust me, I'll never count on Tom Brady. I'll never say they have no chance to win if number 12 is a quarterback. He's 55 years old.
Unless number
right.
10's on the other side.
Okay, Jacob, we got the Eli Manning. So Adam,
or 15, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, good. Before we do that, I do have a question. I'm a big Giants fan. I think, as you've seen, who do you think comes out on top of the NFC East this year?
I think it's between you guys and the Cowboys. I don't think that we're a real contender. I feel like Carson Wentz is in his own. I'm wearing a Jalen Hurts shirt right now. That's where I am as an Eagles fan. But I look at the Giants and I see a very underrated defense. The Giants
and young
defense is Dexter Lawrence, and those guys on that
He's been great.
Line are phenomenal. The offense, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing growth from Daniel Jones every week. But when I watch the Cowboys against the Vikings, you go, this is what it could be. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is still CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and Zeke and Dalton Schultz is solid. And
Zeke's still good.
Starting to get healthy. And so the Cowboys are a team that I feel like still have the horses. They were my pick to win the division before the year. And I think they're the most talented team, and they're figuring out how to play with their offensive line. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Wait,
gotcha.
I have one quick question, and then we'll let you go. So, as a Brady
shit-eating grin on your face right now. You're so excited to ask this question.
As a Brady apologist, I find myself blaming Bruce Arians a lot. So, and this is something we argue about in the house. So it causes real problems.
Can I just say my position? My position is he's spoiled coming from Bill Belichick, and he's only crapping on Bruce Arians because he's not Bill Belichick, but Bruce Arians is still a good coach.
Yeah, like Tom Brady did not look incredible last year. Well, like he didn't look great with Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick.
No, but it's just, maybe it's from watching the Patriots all these years.
He was going to say Bruce Arians is a bad coach.
That's not what I want.
That's what he's looking for.
Bruce Arians is a slightly above average coach, but when it's just such a mismatch when you put him against Sean Payton or what's his face, Sean McVay, or one of these elite coaches. That's just how I feel. And there's just little things like 4th and 1 last night, having Brady roll out when the Rams defense is clearly tired and throwing on the run, it just doesn't make sense. So what do you think about Bruce Arians?
He's a great coach. I think he's a quarterback. Listen, I told everybody I'm taking the Saints over the Bucks to win the division. And the main reason is, when have you seen a super team work in their first year? The Miami Heat didn't win in their first year. And not including the Golden State Warriors, the Philadelphia Eagles, when they assembled all those people, they didn't do anything. The Cleveland Browns last year, they were an absolute mess. You know damn well that Antonio Brown's on that sideline going, when do I get the ball? You got Mike Evans, you got Godwin, you got all those mouths to feed. And Tom Brady is now learning a different language from the same one he's been speaking for 20 years. I just think really that I just think about Tom Brady at the end of last year and how he could barely throw the ball 15 yards down the field. And I just need to ask you, Dan, does he have compromising pictures of you? Like, why will you always defend Tom Brady? Is he, so you were a Patriots fan and he gave you every Super Bowl you've ever had. He gave you 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah. But it's it's a fair question, and it's a loyalty thing.
He's old.
He is old. He's 43. Is not. But also, we live in New Jersey, right? And this is prime Brady hating country. Like, we are in the heart. You got Jets, you got Giants.
So you're conditioned to defend him no matter what.
Yeah, this is. If I didn't have to defend him, I would probably just still be a Patriots fan.
You could
Look
just
at
be a Patriots fan.
look at all the people attacking me on this podcast.
You can also like tell that Dan's a very combative person, as all of us. So when
We all are.
he likes Tom Brady, it makes me hate him so much more, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
And hold on really quick before we go. And I know this is a very long podcast, but I'm going to let you guys go after this. Just like we were saying earlier, now's a great time to buy Russell Wilson stock and the Seahawks stock. Now's a great time, Dan, to scoop up more of that Tampa Bay stock, because even though I told you they're 4 games after the bye, if they battle out with the Chiefs, get your Buck stock now. Everyone's going to be crapping on them. Go. I don't know. I think they're going to make a run at the end of the year. The NFL, whatever you saw last week, like when Dan said that earlier, I was like, that's the worst way to bet games. Looking at last week is like, typically if a team looks great last week, I almost want to bet against them the next week. I almost always go the opposite. It's just so up and down. Only the true teams win back-to-back games. But I'll say this, Jacob, Dan, Ellis, Jeremy, and Ori, I had a great time. I think you guys are doing good stuff here. And I can't wait to see who wins your picks at the end. I know there's more picks left to go. So I want to give you a lot of luck. Jeremy, keep crunching those numbers. Dan, keep going off last week. Ellis, just keep agreeing with me. Jacob out there in Solo Island holding it down. And Ori, you are the flight commander. You're landing all the planes. It has been a pleasure, and I bid you guys adieu.
Thank you so much, Adam.
So much fun.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on and taking
man.
the time.
Have a good night, fellas.
Thank you. You too.
All right, so that was our time with Adam Lefkoe. We had such a good time with him. He go check out the Lefkoe show and his show on TNT for NBA. We had such a good time with him. Great guy, great predictions. He definitely made us look foolish, especially you, Daniel. So for the sake of brevity, because that was such a long time with a lot of insightful commentary, let's move on to some quick rounds of predictions. We're going to go with Titans Colts. Jacob, who do you have here?
Yep, I think this is going to be, honestly, this week of football, one of the best weeks. In this game, I got the Colts. They've had 2 very, very great back-to-back wins, one against the Titans, so they beat them by 17, and last week against the Packers in overtime. As Adam said, and as we talked about, this Colts defense is very good. It's not generational talent, but it's very good. If Rivers has time, which I think their offense can provide them, the Colts should have not an easy time winning this game because Derrick Henry's on the other side of the ball. But I think the Colts win this game.
Ellis, who you taking?
Yeah, let's keep this brief. We in.
Colts. Very nice. Jeremy, who are you taking?
Derrick Henry's tired. I'm taking the Colts.
Derrick Henry's tired from carrying everyone on his shoulders. Nice. And our dissenting vote here, Daniel Fox. Why are you taking Titans?
I don't know why I'm doing this because I have all the incentive not to play things safe. But I just feel like how can I say all those things about the Colts and then go pick them? No, we're going to the Titans.
All right.
You got to put your money where your mouth is. Let's do Raiders Falcons. I think we have some pretty general consensus on this one. I think we were all picking the Raiders on this one.
Yeah, great team. Derek Carr is playing better than
It's National Vikings Month, so we're taking the Raiders.
Yeah.
Any reason? Anyone want to give like one specific stat?
Yeah, I have one.
Sure, Jake.
They just played the Chiefs, and they almost beat the Chiefs, and they played them very well,
Well-
the whole game. The whole game. They played them the whole game until the very, very last drive where Mahomes was Mahomes. And sorry, Matt Ryan, you're not Mahomes.
I have a really good stat. The Falcons are not good at football. Therefore, they will not win their football game this
All
year.
right, moving on.
Just to be clear, we've crapped on the city of Atlanta so much. We've burnt their history, we've burnt their integrity, we've burnt sports records.
But we like
So-
Georgia now.
Yeah, so why not one more slap in the face to Atlanta and say, hey, we're going to take the Las Vegas Raiders over you. Let's do another one that we have a lot of consensus. Chargers at Bills, the Blade Runner. Ellis, why are you taking the Bills?
Woo! I don't know what's in there. The
Whoa.
so sexy, so sexy. Josh Allen, so good. I mean, these are my two favorite quarterbacks in the league. Justin Herbert, because fantasy god, best pickup of the season. No flex. And Blade Runner, but guess what? Blade Runner's not a rookie. Blade Runner wins. Bills.
See, this loser right here makes me really want to pick the Chargers,
Do it.
but I also
it.
really want to win.
Do it.
And
Do
the
it.
Bills are a far better football team, but I hope I will trade a loss if it just means you crying over it. But Blade Runner,
Blade Runner don't take no L's.
Yeah, the Bills are gonna win. I think between a quarterback between Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, it's very close right now, but Bills are a better team.
Yep, I think this is going to be a great game. But just like they've all said, I think the Bills win this game. I think it's going to be a close game, high scoring. But yeah, Ellis said Herbert's a rookie. He makes rookie mistakes, and Bills win this game.
All right, let's take our final game this week. This very well may decide who wins the Who's on Top belt, championship belt this week. Vikings at Panthers, two great teams. There we go, Jacob, for you. Vikings just free fall in the NFC North, which I love to see as a Lions fan. Panthers got absolutely decimated the Lions, which I wrote a little poem about, and you might hear it if you check out our special episode coming out Thanksgiving or after. So after Thanksgiving, so go check it out. It's going to have a Kendrick Lamar inspired poem on the deficiencies of being a Detroit sports fan. So if you want to hear that, go check it out. All right, Jacob, why are you taking the Vikings?
Yeah. Obviously the Vikings fluke loss, maybe not a fluke loss because the Cowboys are still good, but a pretty rough loss to the Cowboys last week. But in my opinion, this team has too many weapons to lose to the Panthers. Panthers defense has not been great. McCaffrey, I believe, Ellis, correct me if I'm wrong, but is most likely not playing this week.
he's doubtful right
He's
now.
out. He is doubtful right now, just like Daniel Fox. But I think it's going to be a good game, but Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, right now, Adam Thielen is out on the COVID list. So if he, in my opinion, he's the make or break. If he plays, Vikings win. If he doesn't play, the Panthers win. But I'm going to take the Vikings.
All right, Dan, Jeremy, why are we taking the Vikings?
I go next is I kind of feel a little bit of loyalty to the Vikings, even though I didn't pick them to go to the playoffs. I think I'm taking the Vikings just because, in my opinion, they won 3 of the last 4. That's not exactly free fall. I understand they lost to the Cowboys, who aren't a great team, but they're still a good team. I just think that they're going to run over them with Dalvin Cook. I think the Panthers are a year away from being a legit team, so I'm taking the Vikings.
Danny?
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Vikings too. I just think feels like a good Dalvin Cook game against the Panthers front 7. That's not especially talented. Kirk Cousins plays clean game, and I think they're just a better football team at home too.
Ellis, our lone dissenter, why the Panthers?
Desperate.
No, I'm not desperate. Actually, this is actually probably a stupid pick. If I pick the Vikings, it's gonna be a much higher chance of getting in first place. But let's dissent because I think Dalvin Cook can run over. But I mean, this Panthers team, Adam Lefkoe said coaches. Matt Rule beats Mike Zimmer in my eyes. They're desperate. They want to win. And they beat the Lions. They got put up 23 against the Buccaneers. They can beat the Vikings. And again, this puts me in a worse position, but I think I'll come out looking good.
So Ellis, with that pick, are you now adopting the Adam Lefkoe style of selecting victory, selecting winners for these football
Maybe,
games.
but also I just really like Matt Rule, and he's gutsy.
I will say no shade to Matt Rule, but Mike Zimmer is a playoff coach, so it's not
He's
like
won a playoff game. He's won one playoff game.
yeah, but he's also been to multiple playoffs. So it's not like Mike Zimmer's a bad coach. I just think it's too early to pick Matt Rule over Mike.
Sounds good. All right. With that, we're going to conclude our special shortened, elongated episode this week because it's a
Might be one of our best episodes ever.
Shortened in terms of content, but elongated in terms of time. We're going to have a special episode coming out this Thursday, sometime this week, where we're going to be talking about NBA, MLB free agency. We're also going to be having our regular poetry scheduled from this week. Again, I cannot emphasize how important it is that you come and listen to the poetry. Me and Jeremy are going to be going head to head, and trust me,
Rap battle.
I think I might have given in run for this money this week. It's going to be really good. Kendrick Lamar is inspired, and I'm going to channel Kendrick Lamar. So, it's always fun to see that.
All right. Thank you. I want to take it over from Ori here. Thanks for tuning into our Thanksgiving special. Have a great Thanksgiving. As always, follow our Instagram at watt.podcast. That's WOT.PODCAST. All lowercase. Our Twitter at watt.podcast. That's WOT.PODCAST. Same spelling, just a capital W. Listen to our podcast pretty much wherever you listen. If you haven't heard the platform by now, they're pretty much all platforms, but go check out my other amazing intros in other episodes. I think that is it for today.
Shout out to Jacob for his birthday.
Happy
Yes,
birthday,
sir.
Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam Lefkoe.
Thank you, Adam Lefkoe. Yes.
As always, have an awesome week. Have an awesome Thanksgiving. I got to do this well. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hey.